quad at Illinois State University is always a busy place. The diverse student population rushes between classes held in buildings that have been standing since 1857. Surrounded by breathtaking landscapes, Greg Brown has been visiting this quad several times a week for over a decade. As an alumni, Greg has found comfort in the campus as well as the student life that transpires all throughout the school.
That's it. That's right there. Oh, yeah, there it is. So am I hitting it? Yeah.
He's become an icon, a source of information, and even a friend to the younger generation.
Well, we got each other for a while, so yeah.
When Greg finds a spot on the quad, it doesn't take him long to draw a crowd with his entertaining demeanor and passionate personality. His homemade signs let everyone know why he's here.
I think it's interesting that he's not actively calling out to people unless they come up to him and ask questions, unlike a lot of other booths and tables here. I think it's pretty good just getting people to look just like a billboard. Getting that idea in people's minds is what's key.
He is known as the medical marijuana man around campus now. He is an activist, an anti-war protester, and an advocate for the legalization of marijuana, specifically because he believes cannabis cures cancer. Greg isn't a fan of technology. He doesn't have a cell phone, a car, or an email address. He's compiled a list of websites using a computer at the local library. He gives this handout to people as his proof that cannabis cures cancer.
I don't claim, I'm not a doctor, I'm not that's not my profession or my background, but I've done some reading and I've done some listening, and certainly there's an immense amount of information online for anybody that is interested. So if I thought that the cancer establishment was taking this seriously, and honestly, I wouldn't feel so pushed to do this.
Inspired by Greg, we set out on a journey to find out more about the legalization of marijuana for ourselves. Our first stop, meeting with people who use marijuana to ease the pain or to cure an illness.
In high school, I went through a lot of bullying and all that kind of stuff, and I was suffering from anxiety and PTSD and depression and all that stuff. I still do, so I used that to kind of stop panic attacks and just to kind of ease that anxiety.
In an interview with Mary Jane, she describes her battles with anxiety and extreme panic attacks faced regularly. While trying to cope with these hardships, prescribed medications were not helping. When turning to cannabis as a solution, the plant not only provided her with relief, but it also allowed her to regulate what she put in her body.
But I definitely don't get that same kind of withdrawal effect that I did get from those anti-anxiety medications. Thus far for me, I have not seen any sort of side effects. I'm working out and I'm feeling okay, and I don't have any kind of things that I would say would be a side effect right now. So.
In an interview with Ace, he talks about his decision to use marijuana for migraines that developed and still occur.
When I was in high school, I got a few concussions during the football season, and ultimately ended my football career. And so I have some lingering side effects, I guess you'd say, and I get migraines frequently. And so when that happens, I like to smoke.
Not all people use the drug for intense problems they may be facing, but rather for minor complications and general stress relief.
For those of us who do choose to smoke, I'm right there with you. I think there's a lot of benefits to it. Personally, like I said, for me, it's a way to relieve pain. For others, if they're going through traumatic events, it's a stress reducer.
Even though some people misuse marijuana, Ace feels that people can be responsible users.
But I also know that there's functioning smokers. That's what I like to call us. Yes, I included myself, us. Functioning smokers. So I have a full-time job. I have a kid, and I smoke, and I'm not a stoner.
We brought Mary Jane and Ace together to get a feel for how their views and opinions on cannabis compared. They agreed that the stereotyping needs to end.
I think to assume that only, lazy or poor or a certain race or whatever it is does marijuana is, and I think it's just not stupid. I think it's illogical because,
irresponsible.
I mean, people of all ages and races and backgrounds drink alcohol or smoke cigarettes. I think it's just stupid, but that's what happens. Marijuana becomes this whole different thing where a lot of people like to stereotype with it. And I always get the, you smoke, because I don't look like someone who would. And that's exactly why I think you need to change the stigma, because I think it'll help just open people's minds up and to be less judgmental.
Stigma is a larger problem for the people who have a serious need for this substance than most people know. Marley, a cancer patient that we had the pleasure of getting to know, has had a problem with her job, as well as her insurance company, while going through the process of obtaining a medical marijuana card.
So I have stage 4 breast cancer, and I've been fighting cancer for 20 years now. So this is my 10th round of chemo that I've done in those 20 years. And so I'm the perfect person. There was no question whether or not I would be approved or not for medicinal marijuana. I'm the poster child for it, essentially. So
Marley recently decided to try the plant. Once she did, she realized that it worked better than any other prescribed drug she had been taking for so long. The only problem is that because it was not regulated like other legal drugs, she had to determine the correct dosage level for herself.
it's completely on your own. There's somebody called Rick someone, and he has his own line of marijuana, and it's called RSO, and he's very, very popular. You can look him up on the internet, and he has quite a bit of information about dosage out on there to try and to help you figure out your own.
While Marley got relief from symptoms associated with chemo, she also shared one story we found especially intriguing.
She was going to try medicinal marijuana, and so she had a PET scan in, I think it was like September of last year, and then she did her 3 months of medicinal marijuana, and that's all she took. She did some essential oils as well, and I'm not familiar with how essential oils work. 3 months later, they went in and did another PET scan, and her cancer was gone. And so that was my oncologist said, I wouldn't have believed it, but I saw the PET scan. I saw what she, and she was smoking her medicinal marijuana. And when they came back 3 months later, all of her cancer was gone.
Greg Brown believes and preaches that cannabis cures cancer. We have heard personal stories with personal proof that marijuana works for medicinal purposes. So how do these people use a currently illegal substance for comfort? Our research led us to a local dispensary called The Green Solution. Illinois is one of the few states that offer medical marijuana cards for patients, making it legal for them to purchase and use marijuana to treat their illness. Tyler, a patient who uses medical marijuana, is also a specialist at The Green Solution.
I already knew that I had seizures and I had issues that were kind of progressing, and I didn't really necessarily have a diagnosis. But as I started to learn more about it, using a computer constantly while having seizures and doing that wasn't necessarily the best place for me to go. I was having, I had benefits and things like that, but once I came here, I told them my situation, and then they offered me a job. And so I pretty much quit what I was doing in hopes that, this is a good career path for me, given that I'm enthusiastic about it, and it's helping me, and it's helping me learn about my own condition by interacting with other people as well.
Most people don't take into consideration the other chemical compounds within the plant that provide people with their main source of pain relief. Tyler explains the specific properties of these compounds and how patients use them instead of focusing mainly on THC.
We have cannabis receptors inside of our brain, and essentially that's where these things are attaching themselves, and they're providing relief to people through medicine. There's also you can use topical bars and stuff like that, which also have other ways of providing relief. But essentially, any kind of different cannabinoids will provide different relief. So for CBN, for instance, if somebody is really, they can't sleep, they have nightmares, PTSD, or they're having trouble sleeping because they feel sick all the time. A lot of flour that has CBN in it can typically help people with insomnia. It tends to make them more sleepy than it does anything else. For me, I need CBD. CBD is another main, a lot of times you hear most of the medicine, you'll hear them ratioed out with THC and CBD. CBD has been found to help people with seizures. It helps people with neuropathy pains. It helps with muscle pains. But essentially, each one of those cannabinoids, I look at them like an Avenger, and each Avenger has their own special thing that they do. And the more of those Avengers you get together, the better they fight whatever you're treating.
Legalizing cannabis will not only have a profound effect on its users, but the economy as well. We went to the Smoker's Den, a local smoke shop located in Bloomington, to talk with an employee who has an interesting perspective on how cannabis could provide a crucial boost to the economic issues of not only the state, but the country as well.
Illinois currently has billions of dollars in debt, and one of the best ways to get a state out of debt is to add industry, add jobs. When you put it in a store where you're required, you have to show your identification before you purchase anything. That makes it safer, and having regulation around something is going to make it safer. It's just all around, when you really look at the numbers and the proper logistics of the situation, it just really makes 100% perfect, clear sense.
Why is the topic of legalizing marijuana so controversial? Greg gave us his educated perspective, and we found out that students, patients, and advocates agree. We don't know how the legalization of marijuana will play out, but we do know that the medical marijuana man will continue to fulfill his purpose.
I would have done it for that one person, you know. I would have been happy to come out here and stand just for that one little interaction with one person. So I always get there's somebody that stops, and we just have something that's just wonderful, a wonderful little interchange. So it's like, that means a lot to me,